Good morning, everyone. It's good to be back with you. It's always good to be with like-minded, open-hearted people, isn't it? People who get you, people who love and support you. How? Unconditionally. Isn't that wonderful? Love and support unconditionally. Oh, you can just take a deep breath and let it all go and just know that you're surrounded by a loving universe that wants you to be successful, that wants you to live abundantly. And not only that, but right here, right now, you're surrounded by supportive, loving people who get you. We know who you are. We know that you are a child of God. We know that you are born and made in the image and likeness of pure divinity. And that this divine potential that you are, when you decide to align with that and unleash that power within, whoo, doggies, everything's going to be lifted up. Everything's going to be expanded and elevated and accelerated. There's going to be a greater expression of God in your life, in the lives of those around you, and in our world. That's why spiritual community is so important to you right now. That's why spiritual community is so important to our world right now. There's a lot of people operating from a place of fear. Tortilla chips. A lot of people operating from a place of fear. A lot of people operating from a place of separation, division, hatred, anger. There are a lot of people operating from a place of high anxiety. They don't know the truth. They have the truth because the truth is written on their hearts and in their minds. But, it's buried so far deep down within them, down beneath all of the tension and the emotional turmoil and the mental arguing and the false beliefs in separation. So this spiritual center serves as a beacon. In fact, all unity centers around the world serve as beacons to remind them and to remind each one of us that there's only one God, one life, God's life, living in and through and as each one of us. And when we can lift that burden, clear out all that emotional turmoil and that mental chaos and those baseless beliefs and things like fear and lack and sin and scarcity and such, then we'll know peace. Then we'll see prosperity for all people. Fulfillment and freedom all around the world. So this month is a very powerful month. We're talking about oneness. Our theme is the oneness of life. And our affirmation is, I behold a connection of light and love with God, myself, and all people. And right now I just want to ask you just to close your eyes, and we're going to take a deep breath, and then we're going to do a kind of a call and response thing with this affirmation. I'll speak a little bit and you just repeat it after me. Just take a deep breath and repeat, I behold a connection of light and love with God, myself, and all people. And take another deep breath and repeat, I behold a connection of light and love with God, myself, and all people. Take another deep breath. Some of you aren't taking a deep breath. Take a deep breath and just repeat, I behold a connection of light and love with God, myself, and all people. And we're going to do it one more time. We're going to take a deep breath. We're just going to say that affirmation together. Take a deep breath. And together we say, I behold a connection of light and love with God, myself, and all people. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and come back to the room. So we're talking about oneness. And the word oneness can be defined as the state of being totally, completely connected with something or someone. When we think of oneness, I always go like this. I think of cohesion, unity, togetherness, wholeness, integrity. Isn't it great to belong to a spiritual center that has the word unity right in its name? Don't you just love that? But when we think of oneness, we think of the quality of being one. Sounds simple, doesn't it? We think of only one. And the first basic principle of unity states, there is one presence and one power active in the universe, and as my life, God the good. One vital, energizing, sustaining presence most of us call God. Of course, there's many different names for God, like Allah, Atman, Brahma, Buddha, First Cause, Cosmic Christ, Universal Consciousness. How about Divine Feminine? Kali, Pele, Divine Mother, Maya, Ishvara, Great Maker for you science fiction people, Higher Power, Holy Spirit, Higher Self, I Am, Infinite Essence, Jehovah, Krishna, Love, Nameless One, Om, Shakti, Shiva, the Source, the Eternal Now, Chi, Prana, Tao, the Infinite, the Force, Supreme Being, the Universe, Spirit, Ultimate Truth, Life, Creative Mind, Vishnu, Yahweh, the Everything and the Nothing, the Void, or how about Wakan Tanka from Native American spirituality. So there are many, many names for God, all seeking to explain and to express this energy, this essence that we simply call God. But there is only one source of all that is, that has ever been, or ever will be. We could say one power, that God is omnipotent, the only power. We could say that God is omnipresent, everywhere present, actually always present in all things, all people, all time, all space, and beyond time and space in this material creation. And we could say that God is one mind, or omniscient, all knowledge, all power, all wisdom. But this concept of one God isn't unique to unity. It's found in many of the world's religions and philosophies. In Judaism, the Shema, the Jewish prayer that's often called the Jewish Pledge of Allegiance, it's found in the Old Testament book of Deuteronomy. It says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one." And from the Quran, the sacred book of Islam, we read, "In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, say, He is God, the one God, the everlasting refuge, who has not begotten, nor has been begotten, and equal to him is not anyone." Of course, in Hinduism teaches one God in many forms, and that's why we read in the Vedas, the most ancient Hindu scriptures, God is one, whom the sages call by various names. From Native American spirituality, the Lakota holy man Black Elk said, "At the center of the universe dwells the Great Spirit, and that center is really everywhere. It is within each of us." And speaking of the center of the universe, science has been demonstrating for several years now the existence of what they call the unified field. Some scientists refer to it as nature's mind. And you might remember Stephen Hawking calling it the mind of God. And actually now researchers are calling this unified field, get this, the quantum hologram. How's that for a name for God? You might remember John Hagelin, the quantum physicist, and he summed it all up by saying, the culmination of modern science has been the recent discovery of a single universal field of nature's intelligence at the basis of all the forms and phenomena in the universe. A single universal field, all is one. That's a lot of information, and you're probably saying, well, yeah, Lorna, I've always thought one God. I've always believed that, always known that. I grew up being taught that, and I have no other gods before me, that kind of thing. Yeah, I get it, one. And I had that same response. And then I remember realizing that even though I thought I believed in one God, that I actually had a very, very, very strong belief in two powers. And then I got to thinking, I realized, and it was a life-changing realization for me about the magnitude and the depth of just that principle, one power, God the Good. And what it would mean if I actually lived my life, if all of us lived our life in accordance with absolute goodness. You see, most of us grew up being taught, and many religionists continue to teach today, that there's actually two powers. God the Good and evil, and however that was represented to you, as the devil or Satan or those kinds of things. But that directly contradicts the truth of one power. But here's where you might be asking, well then, where do these other things come from? These things like sin and scarcity and lack and disease and fear. They seem so real. Well, there's no denying that in this dense matter, this physical material world that we live in, that there's all kinds of struggles. In the world you have trials and tribulations. But that doesn't mean that there are two opposing powers. As a pianist, I learned the principles of music. I learned that when I sounded certain notes together, that they made a beautiful sound, a major chord. I learned that certain tones are precise intervals from each other, and that when I played C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, that it was pleasant to the ear, a major scale. Does that mean that when I made a clunker, when I hit a mistake, that there was an opposing principle at work? No. When I was in college, I worked at a bank for a while, reconciling the accounts of the smaller country banks before sending the total deposit onto the Federal Reserve Bank in Kansas City. And I'd been doing it for a while, and I understood the principles of mathematics, and I could do my work pretty fast, get it done pretty fast. But one night, I don't know what happened, but when the total came up, I was off by $6 million. That was an obvious mistake. Does that mean that when there's a deviation in your calculations, in your checkbook, that there's an opposing power or principle at work? No. Whether it's a deviation from the principles of mathematics or the principles of music or the principles of life, that doesn't distract or deny the true principles. Might mean you have to practice a little bit more, or get your eraser out, or come into alignment with the true principles. And this morning we're talking about the true principle, the first basic principle, that there is one power, God the Good. But we're not just looking to have an intellectual understanding of it. We're looking to how this absolute goodness can express in and through our lives. Yes? All harmony, all love, all peace, all joy, all abundance, all vibrancy. So, how do we come into alignment with this one power, God the Good? Well, first of all, we have to be in a place where we can hear the message of oneness. That means silencing the outer influences and forces that only seek to keep us stuck, that only wish for us to live separately from the fullness and the goodness of God. Not only do we have to silence the external forces, but those inner dichotomies that keep us bouncing back and forth from the one true principle, God the Good, and that which is a baseless belief in lack or limitation. So we want to come into a place where we can hear the message of oneness, and in that place we can agree and accept that there is only one, that there is no other power than God the Good. In order to do that, we have to get beyond what we see with our eyes, what we hear with our ears every night on TV, even what we feel in our hearts and what we think in our minds, and go to the deepest part of our being, to that soul level. And that's where we connect with the one God, the one life, the creative principle from which all absolute goodness flows: love, joy, peace, harmony, abundance, vibrancy. And meditation is the most successful way of doing this. Meditation stills our minds and calms our hearts. And it provides a way for us to give undistractable attention to what's true and what's real. So in your silence, in the silence, simply affirm and contemplate and meditate on one power, God the Good. One power, God the Good. And as you do this and do it on a regular basis, then you're going to get into the place where you can hear the message of oneness to such an extent it's going to permeate your whole being. It's going to pervade your mind and saturate your heart. And you're going to become impervious to those messages of lack and scarcity and fear and sin. Meditation sets in process, in motion, a process of healing those false beliefs that have kept you from realizing that God is omnipotent, all power. Come into alignment with that truth, with that one power, and there will never be anything to fear ever again. God is omnipresent, everywhere present. You are never alone. There is nothing and no one, nothing you have ever done or ever will do that can separate you from the unified field, God the Good. Come into alignment with that presence, and you will know unconditional love and abundant supply. God is omniscient, all wisdom, all knowledge. There is never a reason for chaos or confusion or doubt. As Charles Fillmore says, never say, I don't know. Go within to that soul place. That's where you connect with the one mind and ask for guidance, and you'll receive that divine guidance. There is only one. Just think. Just think what your life would be like if you released those baseless beliefs in fear, in lack, in limitation, disease, and scarcity. Just think how your life would be if you allowed yourself to come into alignment with absolute goodness and lived your life from a place of absolute goodness. Are you ready to do that this morning? I hope so. May it be so, and so it is. So let's go into a meditation time. We're just going to simply meditate on that principle. One power, God the good. So if you want to become comfortable, take a few deep breaths and come to this space. One power, God the good. One power, God the good. And now just silently affirm, I behold a connection of light and love with God, myself, and all people. I behold a connection of light and love with God, myself, and all people. And when you're ready, you can come back to the room.